On behalf of Sachidananda Ashram Yogaville and Lotus Center for All Faith, I have the honor, on behalf of all of you, to welcome warmly our beloved Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche from Serenity Ridge and Ligmincha International. Thank you for coming, Rinpoche. He is accompanied by Geshe Denma, Geshe Yangtun, Geshe Tokla, Lama Khalsang, and our friends from Ligmincha Institute and Serenity Ridge, Rob Patzik and Will Kalik, and then their Ligmincha International board members, Anneke Deckers and Jaslina Pazondo. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. And now I believe we also have a young member of Serenity Ridge, Isabella, is with us also. And may I ask all of the students from Serenity Ridge to stand who have joined us. Welcome to everyone. Thank you. So we have this wonderful annual treat to have Tenzin Rinpoche here at Yogaville. It's perhaps 5th or the 6th year this year. So Tenzin Rinpoche is a founder and a spiritual director of Ligmincha International. He is a beloved teacher, fluent in English, renowned for his depth of wisdom, his clear, engaging teaching style that you will see, and his ability to make the ancient Tibetan Bon Buddhist teachings accessible to us. His Holiness Dalai Lama has said about Bon Buddhism, "We Tibetans regard Bon as the ancient indigenous religious and cultural traditions of our ancestors, which is the source and embodiment of many aspects of the Tibetan way of life. The Bon tradition has bequeathed the present generation and a strong legacy of education and training in philosophy, monastic discipline, ritual, and meditation. It is such an honor to have a headquarters to this International Ligmincha Institutes right here in our neighborhood, only 45 minutes away in Nelson County. We are so fortunate. And Ligmincha Institute is celebrating 25th anniversary this weekend, October 22nd, for a few days. We are invited between 12 and 4 on Sunday to celebrate with them. It's so wonderful that it has been 25 years that this wonderful institution has been at Serenity Ridge. And now about today's program. Tenzin Rinpoche will speak on basic principles and heritage of Bon Buddhism. Before we ask Tenzin Rinpoche to come to the stage, we would like to mention and pay honor to the departed soul of His Holiness Menri Trizin. We, as our Sangha, extend our deepest sympathy for the loss of this great, great teacher who have brought the Bon Buddhist teaching to India and then from India to the West through the great teachers such as Tenzin Rinpoche. May I read just a sharing of His Holiness, the 33rd Menri Trijin, who left the body on September 14th, which is just over a month ago. Tenzin Rinpoche himself was in India with his wife and many, many lamas and geshes to honor and to do memorial service. Tenzin Rinpoche wrote, "His Holiness' entire life has been one of service to others, past, present, and future. His efforts to preserve Bon's past, bringing it from Tibet to India and from India to the whole world. His example will continue to inspire us to live a life of Dharma, of love and compassion for all beings, and of service to others." So we would like to begin our program in honor of His Holiness by sharing the YouTube, the video that I believe Tenzin Rinpoche himself took, that we have, and then also His Holiness chanting. And then we'll ask Tenzin Rinpoche to come onto the stage, and because we have the honor of all the Geshes and Lama to be with us, we have asked them to do a little chanting, heart chanting, and then they have accepted to do that with Tenzin Rinpoche. So now we shall begin, please, with the videos. the Om, the greatness of living Master, such as His Holiness. We can feel His presence and blessings. Thank you for such beautiful presence. And now we would like to invite Tenzin Rinpoche to come and to bless us with some chanting, and also to speak on his master and also on the principles and heritage of Bon Buddhism. Please welcome Tenzin Rinpoche.
So, good evening. Very happy to be here this evening. And always, whenever I come here in Yogaville, very happy. And this is always to community, Serena Ridge and Yogaville community here. We're always trying to get closer to each other, know each other better, connect with each other. This is a beautiful experience, and I look forward continuously doing that in the future. Maybe just before I speak about the Burn tradition, our spiritual practices, I will just say a few words about His Holiness. His Holiness is the 33rd, the abbot, the Mary Monastery, which is the head of, basically the head of our tradition. So my own experiences with him, I remember very clearly around age 11 when I first time went into the monastery. I saw him in the next town, small town called Solon. I saw him in a hardware store buying construction materials. So it's from distance, I remember very clearly I saw with the blue tonggak, what we call, he was wearing that. And that was it. So I went back, I told my mom, I saw this Lama, and they said that the head of the monastery. So next thing I went, saw him in the monastery, so I did not know anything. So, but my parents, they sent me to the monastery, so first thing I know, they cut my beautiful hair. My son, who just went in the Dharamsala, and he had a long hair, and when the school rule, the boarding school rule, you have to cut the hair, make it shorter, he was so mad. So I remember a little bit about, around age 10, 11, that happened to me too. I was not mad, but so I enter into the monastery. Since then, I grow under his blessings, his guidance, all basically until I finished Geshe degree. So he worked so hard. He cared about all the monks there. Even though monastery conditions were very, very poor, very difficult situation, but he always find a way to feed us, and came to sometime each individual's monk's house to make sure they have enough, for the tea and the breads in the mornings. And so with a lot of hard work, both him and my other teacher, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, for many years. So we finished first what we call Geshe is that educational training. First Geshe, we were like six people. So since then, over so over hundreds now Geshes have trained under him. So Geshe basically, it means basically it's like a PhD. In some way, it's much more tougher than the PhD, I think. So that's not a easy task. So that I think as a result of that, our community has expanded. People went to all different places, like myself coming to the West. I don't know why I came and how I end up here, but somehow I think everybody has something, karmic related things. You're meant to do something. Life brings you some places. So, but there's no way I could do what I do unless his blessings, what they had taught and given us. So, just before he passed away, I think 2 weeks before, I had a dream, very clear dream, that in my dream he came. And I clearly knew that I needed to go and visit him. So I planned that and went and canceled some of the programs. And the day I arrived in the morning, and went in his house, and he was lying in his bed, and I was able to give him a little foot massage with oil, warm oil. And that afternoon he passed away. So it's like I was able to meet him before. So there was I was very fortunate to able to have that experience. So if, in some sense, we expected. He's been not well for some time, but on the other hand, it was a great shock loss for the Burn community all around the world. So I think in some sense, he's 90, so he lived a full life, very helped so many people, accomplished so many things, put the seed of Burn tradition in the world after Chinese invasion in Tibet. We lost almost everything, but then able to rebuild that connection, put hundreds of seeds. So I think this is a new stage of our community. So now we are seeing how we continue, and this is I think he have left and guided us so much, so we have to do our best to continue this, no? Yeah. So now, as a Burn tradition, it's a very rich and old tradition. According to the oral history of Burn tradition, it says 18,000 years, so which we don't have to prove, or I don't know anybody can prove, or hard to even believe probably. But one thing for sure, it's one of the oldest tradition on the earth, and it's not so much known around the world. It's in terms of the world population, but in terms of in Tibet, it's not the smallest one. It's probably one of the 5 main spiritual tradition in Tibet, and among 5 or 6 main spiritual tradition in Tibet, probably one of the largest one, big one. It's kind of spread out from all over Tibet. So, but it's not exactly following the line of Buddha Shakyamuni, because Buddha Shakyamuni is only over 2,500-600 years. So it's much older tradition. It actually is a tradition of root of Tibet. So all the unique characteristic of Tibetan Buddhism, which is in a way it's a kind of unique. Tibetan Buddhism is a unique Buddhist tradition, unlike like in Thai, Theravada, Sri Lanka, and Japan, other places. So this uniqueness of Tibetan Buddhism is very much shaped by the civilization of Shangjung and the Burn tradition. So if you look like all the prayer flags, rituals, fumigation, very much connected with the nature, spirit of the nature, all this very mystical aspect of the Tibetan Buddhism has so much rooted in the Burn tradition. But of course, when Buddhism was introduced in late 7th century, 8th century, and then the Burn and Buddhism both were like very much mixed between each other. So it was for Buddhists to come into totally a new country, and a country with very strong, rich tradition has been already rooted for hundreds and thousands of years, and it's not very easy. So of course in the beginning there were some frictions, also historical frictions between two, but at the same time both have to adapt from each other. For the Burn has to adopt some of the Buddhist philosophies, and the Buddhism, very pure, coming from India, has to adopt what the local culture and tradition. So there were very much what really becomes a unique Tibetan Buddhism, and also Burn has been also kind of evolved and changing. So, but there are some things that I think is very, very unique to Burn tradition, and in the Burn tradition we have something called 9 ways of Burn, and there is 3 different kind of 9 ways of Burn. One is called like a southern treasure, one is called northern treasure, one is called central treasure. The central treasure, I know it's a little boring and maybe complicated, but so the central treasure is very much a little bit more similar to the main line of the Buddhist philosophy, And the southern treasure is a little bit more like a unique to Burn, which is it has also what we call 9 ways, 4 like causal vehicles, 4 vehicle of fruition, and the last one is called beyond cause and fruition. So it's like a non-dual path. So what does that mean is all the 9 ways is from, in some sense, is from very much basic principles of humanity, I guess. Like everybody has some sense of moment you are born, moment you are living in this world, you have some kind of basic views of the world without being, without being particularly trained by a specific religion, philosophy, or education, but some basic beliefs, basic sense of trust. So those basic beliefs are very much dualistic. Some sense of it is based on more like a dualistic view. So even though people say that superstition, for example, people say I don't have a superstition, but everybody have idea of black cat crossing the road. Even iPhone, they skipped the number 9. They went into from 8 to 10, right? 8 to 10, right? So even iPhone has, I don't know, maybe they have a superstition, maybe it's a tactic of selling and marketing. But somehow everybody, I think in some sense, have a belief in something is good, something is bad, even though we all love the idea of non-dualistic, but duality is part of our very innate thing. And that duality in some sense of manifests in a different forms, in a different cultures, traditions. So I think the 4 causal vehicles are very much like that. But very important knowledge, knowledge such as divination, so there are many different kind of divinations that talk about divination through doing malas, divination through astrological calculations, divinations with knots of like a 360 different knots, the formation of knots. That knots are made out of very specific wools, and so it's very, very sophisticated. I call it very civilized or sophisticated shamanism, and but very, very so much depth and sophistication in their form of divination. Even dream, like using a dream as a way of predictions. Basically entering into dream to understand the reality, understand the future, understand about each other, predicting things, and astrology, for example, and then rituals like a soul retrieval. People, some things that cannot be diagnosed by medical things. People say, doctor, if you go to the doctor, they say you're fine, but you're not fine. You have some difficulties. So there are a lot of rituals, astrology, divination, which predicts to do certain rituals. So if astrology will tell, okay, you need to do these things. It will tell, okay, the combination of star planet is not good, whatever, so you cannot do this thing in that day. If you really have to do it, then you have to do perform these rituals. So there's always some solution and some rituals to clear something. And those rituals are believed to be very, very important in our tradition. In the Burn tradition, it's very, very important. And of course, there are some people believe so much into it, and other people believe less into it. Even in one family, the husband might be very much into it, or wife might be not into it. So it's very much, the knowledge is there in the Burn tradition. And I think growing up, I used to not get into so much into it, but I clearly do believe there is truth, there is benefit of that, because it's like this. If your mind is clear, then your mind is clear. you don't have to worry about people talking whatever people talk or whatever superstition, cat going up, down, doesn't matter. There are cats goes ups and downs, right? But if your mind is not clear, if you're always in a very vulnerable situation, you always are worried about things, then every situation makes you vulnerable. But when you feel vulnerable, what do you do? What do you do? I give one example. Okay, my mom is into these kind of things. So, and when somebody wears like one of my clothes or something like that, and then she will say, okay, she said, you don't want her to keep my son clean. So she will clean the blanket by making sang fumigation offering, and then she will move this, and that's it. For her, she decided the mantra blanket is, dry cleaned, cleared, purified. Or wind clean, smoke clean, whatever you want to call it. It's clean. For in her mind, it's clean now, right? Just clean. That's what matters. But she needed to go through that to experience that cleanness in her. But if you feel some sense of something is wrong, something is not right, but if you don't have any method, way of doing it, then you live with it. I think that's what I think is some sense, some basic sense. We always able to create some very vulnerable situations in our life, some doubts and questions, and but then we don't have the solution for it. So I think some sense, I believe that in traditions like in Burn tradition, with all these causal vehicles, it understands the basic conditions and basic problems in the human mind. But when they create something like that, it provides some kind of methodology to work with it and play with it. So all those kind of knowledge is called causal vehicles. And I don't know, like if you've seen prayer flags, right? People love prayer flags. And I was amazed by how much prayer flags people use in California. If you drive around, you'll see a lot of windows with the prayer flags, even in Berlin and Germany. And in my neighborhood, I know at least 3 of them. The street that I sometimes spend some time there. And one window I know this, I don't know who lives there, but sometimes the prayer flags are kind of rotten, it's need change, but they don't change. So I have been supplying for the last 3 years. They don't know who I am. I throw the prayer flag up there, and I see next day they put a new one. And then after 1 year, the same thing. They're not buying another one. I said, okay, it's time to change. I throw in another one. So, but people are using everywhere, and of course, I wonder sometimes they know why they're using it. But a whole idea of raising prayer flag is raising your what we call wind horse, we call lungta, your fortune. So people go up high up in the mountain, and the peak up in the mountain where there's more exposure to winds. So they burn the fire. They make a smoke with sage and other incenses. They make a big smoke. Then the smoke goes up. Then they throw these pieces of paper where there's a wind horse prints and the mantra. So when the prayer flag is raised, these papers goes up in the sky. This is the idea of you. It's you raise your fortune and your luck and your vitality, all this energy through this wind. So wind is going up. It raises the prayer flag. So internally, it's your raising your fortune, and so people use that in the beginning of they start a new business or they go to some big journey and trips. They do that in invoking the nature elements, spirits, and So basically, there are so many these form of rituals, so much practice in Tibet. So all these practices are in a way very unique to Tibetan tradition, and these unique form of Tibetan Buddhism tradition, they say they all come from Burn. And of course, sometimes some people were people who are very much intellectual and they don't believe in these kind of things, and they would sometimes say, oh, I heard a story that one of the geshe who is philosophical trained and who did not believe in any of these kind of things. So he was talking about emptiness and that everything is a projection, and like talking all the time, giving classes on that. And one day he gets sick. So he gets sick, he's not getting better, and then he goes in the kitchen saying, I have to do the ritual. So then he makes the torma, and in the end, he was trying to do some rituals because he did not know what else to do. The theory of emptiness did not work for him, right? So it's very much rooted in Tibetan culture, and so I think in some sense there are deep knowledge like that. I think it's very, very important to preserve. What I believe it's important to, regardless of you believe or not, regardless of I believe or not, these are part of our tradition, our culture, and they need to preserve as they are for the future, for future generations. And there might be somebody out there who absolutely need it. And so it's not about me, right? It's not about me, or it's about one person or a small group of people. It's about preserving a knowledge, something has been coming down for thousands of years, and preserving it for the future, somebody who might need it. Preserving the culture, because that we as a Tibetan culture and tradition, we face that danger so many times, So our teachers, when they came first time in India, they worked in a road construction in India, imagine, right? Road construction, making a road. And so living a very, very hard life, but one thing they said they wanted to do, as my teacher said, I need to train all of you. So there's no one single thing is not important. Everything is important. So as growing up, sometime I remember very clearly, I said, I'm not interested in this topic. And my teacher got really, really mad, He said, you're very selfish, So it's not about you. It's about preserving it for the future. It's about being the container to hold, not something will not disappear during our time. And so he always, that is what he believed in, and that is how he taught everything down to us. And of course, then whatever some specific things that you're interested, you get more focus on that, and some other things you get less focus on that. But he made sure that everything what he learned, he taught to us, So, and one group, at least there were 6 of us, we finished and during that time, he ate the same food we ate, very, 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 very basic, I remember going to one of the minimum security prison here to teach meditation, and when I saw how they were living there, they were living much more comfortable than we lived in the monastery, and their food was much better. And I was telling him, think about, some of them are there like a few years there. So I said, think about, you are in the monastery for a few years, full retreat for free. And actually, that's what they're doing. They were practicing every single day, and they have access to books, and their teachers coming like myself, coming there to teach. So it's like that. It was very, very hard the way we grow up, but we, some sense we preserve, I think, with the blessing and hard work of our teachers, we made this bridge here. Let's see. The other part of the tradition is more like a tantric form. Tantric form is more practices, teachings related with like yoga, like what we call salung, visualization. Basically, it's like a transformation, path of transformation. So it's like there are a lot of practices that through visualization, through yoga, breathing, transforming our ignorance, transforming our 5 poisons into wisdom. So it's like a more path of transformation. So we call ngak, basically, is a form of tantra, And the last form is what we call, it's a dzogchen, it's a path of great perfection. Path of great perfection is basically is the nature of mind. It's in our true essence. So everybody have your own true essence, your own nature of mind. So it's about basically self-realization, basically realization of yourself, your essence, who you are, the path of self-realization. That path, I think, in some sense, also shared by many other traditions also, but the approach of transmission, the teaching, the literature, they are different. But in the end, I think either it's an approach of renunciations, like a sutra, the monastic disciplines, or the path of transformation in yogis with the long hairs and so on, or like a very solitude, you live a whole your life into the cave and just gazing sky and meditating. So many different approaches, and all approach meant to be, it's overcoming deep root ignorance, liberating from one's own ignorance, right? So I think that's really like either it's 9 ways or 3 paths, what we call path of renunciation, sutra, path of transformation, tantra, and path of liberation called dzogchen. So it's like overcoming your own ignorance, your own negative emotions, but different ways. One, you renounce it. One, you transforms it. One, you liberate, means leave it as it is. So how many of us you're able to leave as it is, right? Does that make sense? Like when you have when you have a deep fear. So let's talk about maybe deep fear. Let's talk about death, right? So idea of sickness, death. When you think about sickness, death, it's fearful. And when you think about what do you want to do about it, it's interesting. I was always think about this. One of the problem, it seems like we always wanted to do something, right? We wanted to fix the death. How are you going to fix the death? So any time when we are in trouble in some form or other, we wanted to fix it right away. Okay, some things probably, yeah, we have to fix it. But other things like there's nothing to fix. You just have to be fully, you wanted to have fully peace with the situation. That's the only thing. It's not about fixing anything. It's about having peace with the situation. So maybe if you look at in your life, there are a lot of things we can think of. Yes, I can fix it. I can fix it. I should fix it. I'm fixing it. It's working quite well. Right? Good for you. But don't think everything in life you will do that approach. Because there are some situations, there's nothing to fix about it. You just have to have complete peace with it. And every approach trying to fix it, change it, it's waste of energy, waste of effort, and you will never able to fix it anyway, but every attempt is losing energy. It's a struggle. So if you think about that, so the path of Dzogchen is in a way, that's what it is. It's called path of liberation. It's saying accepting as it is. But like a peacock does not runs away from the poisons, or peacock is not trying to keep very busy trying to change the poison. Peacock eats the poison. And the poison makes peacock more beautiful, more colorful. So every challenge in our life, you can live with it fully, accept it fully, be completely open to it, have total peace with it, then only every challenge will make you grow more.
make you stronger, make you richer, make you grow more, make you feel more fuller. By being open, accepting it, not by affected by it, not by trying to seeing something wrong in it and working so hard to change it and going through so much pain of failure of changing it. That doesn't work, right? That path sounds interesting, right? Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Is that path is interesting. It's true. That path is interesting, and that is what we call Dzogchen path of Dzogchen. It's very interesting, and we pray for that. We pray, may I have a strength to understand that way. Or we pray, we sing, at least when we are trying to change all the time, just to realize it's not always about changing things. Sometimes you can leave it as it is and allow things to change in its own timing. And usually the universal schedule is far better than your schedule of your pain ego. So those paths are there, and they're very rich. In some sense, these teachings are transmitted masters who did not know even how to read, did not understand the literature, the richness of the Burn literature, but they have direct transmission from master to student with very few words, maybe very few lines, but to the point, makes complete sense. It's like a password. You're getting the password, right? To open the treasure of the universe. So those form, I think, in the Burn tradition, that no knowledge is there. I think those also are practiced by very, very small groups of people. Practice these yogic traditions, and a very, very tiny kind of lineage, but it was always there. And so I sometimes, anyway, I feel much more closer to that approach. I'm not saying I understand or I have realization, but I'm saying I feel more closer, and I pray to that approach to more have in my life, and at the same time respect all the richness of the tradition and trying to do anything possible to preserve it. But this is what my teachers have taught me, to preserve. If it doesn't make any sense to you, preserve it still. You do it for others, do it for the tradition, do it for the future, do it for preserving our knowledge on the earth. If you can serve, you can do that. If you're in a position to do that, if you don't do that, that will be bad. So that's what I believe, and that's what my work for last 25 years. That's been my approach to trying to preserve in the Burn. It in every form what it comes in the tradition, and I trying to do that. So that's all. And maybe if there are some questions or stuff.
You spoke about the 5 poisons, and what specifically in your tradition, what do you mean?
Yeah. So the question is, what is the 5 poison? So the 5 poison, usually in our tradition, we say like ignorance, anger, attachment, jealousy, and pride. So these are more considered as a 5 poison. And but then maybe 3 root poisons like ignorance, anger, and attachment, aversion and attachment. So ignorance is like a lack of self-realization, which manifests out as a doubt. So when you are doubtful, then whatever happens, either you grasp it or you reject it. So you don't have a sense of neutrality, acceptance of the, things. So if you, how you say, it's interesting that you can observe yourself. Like if you find yourself in a place where people are having some conversation, and you listen to them, you hear they're having some conversation, and you said, I'm not interested in it. You immediately, you're hearing it, you're just close, right? Have you noticed that? If there's something that you're not learning, that means you're close to that. It's exposing to you all the time. For me, German language is a little bit like that, for me. I've been there so many years, but I realize I'm close. And I'm experimenting myself. Okay, I'm close. Yes, I'm close. So I'm trying to open. So what I'm trying to do, open, when they're talking, I'm trying to be very interested, listening to it. But I can still see there's some sense of that connection is not there, right? So you very unconsciously you shut down, or you very consciously you can stay very open to certain things. So you either get attached to it or you reject it based on ignorance. So these are called 3 root poison, or 3 root poison, 5 negative poisons, and then 84,000. Yeah, so there's no luck of it. I'm sure more new ones are coming, right?
Thank you so much, Tenzin Rinpoche. That wonderful, wonderful talk. I think we firstly appreciate so much your personal sharing with your experience with your master. It means so much to us to hear that relationship with the teacher, the guru, and the student. And the student, when he or she has become the teacher and has become that container, that one that preserves and tries all, well, I must just say, your dedication and commitment to carry on this great heritage. We feel so truly fortunate to have you amongst us and to come and to share that teaching and your heart with us. The Bon Buddhist teachings and principles and practices, I think all us yogis can very much relate to, because we have that very same goal, to be free of attachment, anger, and so on. And our own teacher, Sri Swami Satchidanandaji, also taught us the pathway to that truth and self-realization. And our love for our own masters, I think we can show by dedicating ourselves to practice those teachings and to be becoming the examples. And so we wish to just offer our humble gratitude to you. Shiva Moore, our executive director, will offer you a token of our gift. If you could stay there for a moment, we would like to offer 3 Mahamrityunjaya mantram, and we do a closing prayer. We certainly would like to offer our prayers for your health and well-being, all the geshes and lamas of this incredible tradition, and its continuation, and all success. And for your 25th anniversary, we wish you all the success. We join you in the joy of the celebration. And may it see many, many, many more years. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivatanam Urvarukamive Vandanan Mrityo Mukshya mamritat. Om Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhin pushtivatanam urvarukamive bandhanan mrityo mukshya mamritat. Om Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhin pushtivatanam urvarukamive bandhanan mrityo mukshya mamritat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We worship you, all-seeing one, fragrant you nourish bounteously. From fear of death may you cut us free to realize immortality. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityo mahamritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to your will. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from the fear of death to knowledge of immortality. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahanao Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavahai Tejasvinavati Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us, grant us wisdom's fruit. May we gain energy to know the truth. May our intellects grow clear and bright. May we cherish no ill feelings toward anyone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kayena vacha manasendriyeva bhujatmanava prakrite svabhavat karomi adyat sakaram parasmahi guru varayeti samapayami. Whatever actions I may perform, impelled by the forces of nature, by body, word, mind, senses, intellect, soul, I offer to the feet of my Sakurudev. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light, and may that light of truth overcome all darkness. Jai Shri Sakuru Maharaj Ki Jai. We give honor to all.